Commander Valix had seen war in every corner of the galaxy. His body bore scars from battles with countless alien species, and his mind carried memories of millions lost under his command. He had survived ambushes on volcanic planets, starship crashes in icy belts, and attacks from creatures that seemed unstoppable. Yet nothing had prepared him for Earth. He stepped into the grand hall of the Galactic Council, his claws clicking against the polished floor. The chamber was vast, filled with beings of every shape and color. Some floated, some had wings, some had multiple eyes glowing in the dim light. All of them turned to look at him, curious or bored as he approached the central podium. Valix's heart pounded, not with fear but with urgency. "Honored members of the council," he began, his voice echoing across the hall. "I bring a warning you cannot ignore. Earth is not like any world we have conquered." Murmurs filled the room. A few laughed quietly, whispering to one another. A massive creature with 4 arms leaned forward and said, "Commander Valix, we respect your service. But humans? They are primitive. Their technology is outdated. Their soldiers are weak and unorganized." Valix's tail flicked angrily. He had fought humans in their own cities. He had seen their strength firsthand. Entire battalions of his forces had been destroyed by humans who seemed few in number, yet moved with precision, courage, and an intelligence that could not be measured. "They do not fight like others," he repeated, his voice rising. "They think differently. They adapt faster than any species I have ever encountered. They endure pain we cannot imagine. They never surrender. I have seen soldiers, children even, risking their lives to save comrades. Entire cities can be destroyed, and yet they rise again. If you attack them, you will lose more than you expect. The cost will be catastrophic." Chancellor Rin, a luminescent being with 6 arms, shook his head slowly. "Valix, your concern is noted. But the Empire is strong. We have conquered thousands of worlds. Humans are just another species. We cannot bow to fear of a small, unrefined planet." Valix's claws clenched at his sides. He could feel his anger rising, but also sorrow. He had seen the humans' courage, their loyalty, their unbreakable will. They were not machines, not soldiers trained for obedience. They were living proof that strength came from spirit, not just numbers or weapons. You may call it fear. "Chancellor," he said, voice trembling with intensity, "but I call it truth. I have witnessed them defy death again and again. I have seen them improvise, fight back, and survive against forces that should have crushed them. Do not dismiss this warning. If the Empire underestimates humans, the consequences will be worse than you can imagine." A few council members snickered. "You worry too much, old soldier," said one, a floating entity that shimmered like liquid metal. "You speak of heart and courage, but the galaxy answers only to power." Valix turned away, his tail dragging with frustration. He looked at the chamber one last time, and in that moment, he felt the weight of his centuries of experience. The council would not listen. They would not understand. And soon, the Empire would pay a price for their arrogance. As he left the hall, he whispered under his breath, almost to himself, "Remember this day. Remember my warning. Humans are not a species to underestimate. When they rise, it will be too late for the Empire to survive." Valix walked into the silence of the corridors, a lone figure carrying the burden of truth that no one wanted to hear. His heart was heavy with fear for the future, but also with a strange, unshakable respect for the humans he had encountered. He knew one thing clearly. The galaxy had never seen anything like them, and the stars themselves might tremble when humanity chose to fight. The black void of space above Earth shimmered with countless lights, thousands of Empire warships preparing to descend. Commander Valix watched from his command vessel, a deep unease twisting in his chest. He had warned the council, yet they had ignored him. Now the moment of truth had come. The human planet looked small and fragile from orbit, its blue oceans and green continents serene beneath the looming fleet. Generals in the Empire celebrated, certain of an easy conquest. "Primitive creatures," said one, tapping a holographic display of the planet. "They will break within days." Valix shook his head. "They are not like other species," he muttered, remembering the battles he had fought there. "Do not underestimate them." The first strike came swiftly. Plasma beams tore through cities. Orbital cannons pounded military installations, and the sky was filled with the screams of machinery and the smoke of burning landscapes. On the ground, human soldiers scrambled, dodging debris and directing civilians to safety. Their weapons were smaller, their armor thinner, yet they fought with unmatched courage. Entire battalions of the Empire fell within hours. Humans appeared to anticipate every strike, striking back from hidden locations. Tunnels, camouflaged bunkers, and improvised traps swallowed machines and soldiers alike. Valix could hardly believe his eyes. He had faced fierce species, but humans were something else entirely. Unpredictable, inventive, unyielding. In one city, a human platoon of barely 100 soldiers faced an entire mechanized squadron. They split into small teams using the environment, timing, and sheer will to dismantle the invaders. Valix watched as one human, not more than 18, threw himself onto a functioning weapon to save his comrades, sacrificing his life in the process. The Empire's soldiers hesitated, unprepared for such courage. Admiral Tekor turned to Valix, panic in his glowing eyes. "They cannot fight like this. It is impossible." Valix said nothing. He had warned them. He had begged them to listen. And now the consequences were beginning to unfold. The humans were not organized in a way the Empire could easily crush. They were a storm of unpredictability, fueled by determination and loyalty to one another. The invasion intensified. Warships bombarded the surface relentlessly, dropping mechanized infantry, plasma drones, and chemical weapons. But humans adapted. Civilians became part of the defense, converting everyday objects into weapons. Ships were sabotaged before they could fire. Entire fleets vanished into Earth's oceans or forests, victims of tactics the Empire could not comprehend. Valix felt a mix of horror and admiration. The humans' courage, their ability to endure and retaliate, was unlike anything he had ever encountered. They fought not just with weapons, but with heart. And the more the Empire attacked, the more humans seemed to rise unbroken and unbowed. By the end of the first month, thousands of the Empire's finest soldiers lay dead, their ships destroyed or disabled. The Council's confident predictions had been shattered. Valix's warning echoed in his mind, louder with each loss. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was something far stronger. As he watched a group of young soldiers rally civilians to defend a city, Valix whispered, almost reverently, "They are not just fighters. They are legends in the making." Weeks passed, and the Empire's frustration grew. Entire divisions had been lost to human ingenuity. Valix had never seen such coordinated resistance from a species considered primitive. Each day brought new surprises. Humans turning ordinary vehicles into war machines, hacking drones to fight for them, and striking with a precision that left seasoned generals bewildered. The humans were not fighting for glory. They were fighting for survival, for home, for each other. That unity made them unstoppable. Valix had watched one squad of soldiers defend a bridge against hundreds of enemy troops, improvising traps and using the terrain to their advantage. The aliens fell one by one, unable to comprehend the humans' will. In the ruins of a city, Valix observed a scene that would stay with him forever. Smoke filled the air, buildings reduced to skeletal frames, and yet humans moved through it with purpose. They carried the wounded, shared food and water, and defended each other without hesitation. Even in defeat, they refused to bow. The sight humbled Valix in ways he could not express. The Empire's strategies grew frantic. They launched orbital bombardments, mechanized assaults, and psychic attacks trying to break the humans. But each attempt only revealed their miscalculation. Humans were adaptable. They learned quickly, used their enemy's strength against them, and kept fighting even when hope seemed lost. Valix began to understand what made humans different. It was not their weapons or their numbers. It was their heart, their unwillingness to give up, their ability to unite in the face of overwhelming odds. He realized that the humans' power was invisible, something no machine or warship could measure. One night, Valix watched from orbit as a small team of humans disabled a massive war drone. They moved silently, using shadows and debris to their advantage, and struck with efficiency and courage. When the drone exploded, the team cheered. Quietly, their faces tired but triumphant. Valix felt something stir inside him, pride, awe, and fear all at once. These humans were not just survivors. They were something else entirely. For the first time in centuries, Valix felt powerless. The species he had served for so long was faltering, not because of strength, but because of arrogance. And the humans were rising. He whispered to himself, voice trembling, "This is not just war. This is history in the making." The galaxy has never seen anything like them. Felix knew one thing clearly. The turning point had arrived. The Empire could no longer ignore the truth. Humans were no ordinary soldiers. They were a force that would change the fate of the galaxy. And if the Empire did not understand that, their empire would fall. The Galactic Empire's council chambers buzzed with tension. For the first time in centuries, the leaders faced uncertainty, a creeping fear they could not dismiss. Reports of massive losses from Earth kept arriving, each one more staggering than the last. Entire fleets vanished. Elite units were destroyed. Generals were panicking. Chancellor Rin banged his glowing staff on the podium, trying to regain control. "This is unacceptable," he roared. "We have the largest fleet in the galaxy. How can a primitive planet resist us?" "Primitive?" growled General Kavor, whose skin was as hard as obsidian and arms bristled with weapons. "They are more organized than anything we've faced. They anticipate our moves. They strike with precision, yet we cannot find their command centers." Felix stood quietly at the edge of the room, watching the chaos unfold. He had warned them, pleaded with them, and they had ignored him. Now the Empire suffered the consequences of arrogance. He could see the frustration in their eyes, the fear clawing at their voices. And he felt something else, an unexpected pride. "They are not just fighters," Felix said softly, almost to himself. "They are something beyond, something the galaxy has never known." The council members turned toward him. "Speak, Felix," Rin commanded, though his tone was tight with impatience. "They are humans," Felix said. "They fight for more than strategy or conquest. They fight for each other, for their homes, for a world they love. Their strength is not in machines or numbers. It is in spirit. They endure hardships we cannot imagine. They rise even when hope seems lost. If we continue to attack them as we do other species, we will lose everything," the generals scoffed. "This is sentiment, not strategy," one shouted. "We are an empire. Logic and power decide victory." Felix's voice sharpened. "And that is why you are failing. You cannot calculate courage, determination, or loyalty. You cannot measure the force of a species that refuses to surrender. I have fought them. I have seen their cities burn and they still rise. I have watched their soldiers risk death again and again, and somehow they endure." The council fell silent. For a moment, even Rin seemed unsettled. But the weight of pride and centuries of dominance made them dismissive again. "You exaggerate, Felix. Humans are strong for a small planet, yes, but they will eventually break. We are the Empire. They cannot withstand our combined fleets." Felix shook his head slowly. He had seen enough. The humans were not like any species the Empire had faced. Their resistance was creative, relentless, and unrelenting. Every tactic used by the Empire was anticipated, countered, or turned against them. Entire divisions of soldiers had been wiped out, not because of superior enemy forces, but because the humans refused to die quietly, refused to surrender, refused to give in. Outside the chamber, messages from the battlefield poured in. A human squad disabling a warship engine from inside, civilians sabotaging weapon depots, soldiers defending bridges with minimal resources. Felix read each report, each story of bravery, each act of sacrifice, and he felt awe rise inside him. These creatures, whom the Empire had called primitive, were extraordinary. "They fight like nothing I've ever seen," Felix whispered. "And the galaxy does not yet understand what they are capable of." Rin waved him silent. "Enough, Felix. We will handle this. Leave strategy to the council." But Felix could not leave it. The humans had changed the rules of war. They had proven that strength was not only in numbers or weapons, but in unity, courage, and heart. The Empire was losing, and no one was willing to see why. As he stepped out of the chamber, Felix's mind raced. He had warned them once. He had begged them to listen. And now the Empire was crumbling, not because of weakness, but because it had ignored the undeniable truth. Humanity could not be conquered. Above Earth, fleets clashed in silence and chaos. On the surface, humans continued to fight tirelessly and courageously. Felix watched the smoke rise and the ground tremble, and for the first time in centuries, he wondered if the empire he had served so loyally was about to fall, not to some mighty enemy, but to a small, determined, and unstoppable species called humans. And in his heart, he knew one thing for certain. The empire's arrogance had sealed its fate. Humanity's rise had begun, and no force in the galaxy could stop it. The morning sun glinted off the broken metal of ruined cities, painting the smoke in shades of gold and gray. Commander Valix hovered in orbit aboard his ship, eyes fixed on the chaos below. Reports had come in steadily. Empire troops falling to human ingenuity, war machines destroyed by seemingly impossible tactics, and small squads turning entire battalions into ashes. For the first time, the humans had achieved something remarkable. They had begun to win. On the ground, a squad of humans no larger than a single Empire platoon moved silently through the rubble. They carried scavenged weapons and makeshift shields, but there was no hesitation in their steps. Every move had a purpose. Every glance carried understanding. Valix watched them from above, his claws tapping nervously against the control console. He had seen courage before, but what he was witnessing now was beyond anything he had imagined. The humans had discovered a weakness in the Empire's orbital fleet. A massive warship, one of the largest in the system, floated high above Earth, its shields powerful and its weapons deadly. The human squad, small and under-equipped, infiltrated its landing platform undetected. They moved like shadows, avoiding patrols, disabling security systems and planting explosives with precision that even Valix admired. When the charges detonated, the explosion shook the atmosphere. The massive warship shuddered, sparks flying and plumes of smoke rose into space. Alarms blared, lights flickered, and the once imposing vessel drifted helplessly. The humans had won a battle the Empire had deemed impossible. Valix could not hide his awe. "Incredible," he muttered, voice trembling. "They are unstoppable." Admiral Tikor, standing beside him, clenched his fists. "How is this possible? They are just humans. They should be crushed." His voice cracked with disbelief. "They are not just humans," Valix said softly, almost to himself. "They are a force of will, of spirit, of heart. That is something no machine, no weapon, no empire can destroy." News of the victory spread quickly. Across the globe, human soldiers rallied their comrades, inspired by the audacity of their small squad. Civilians joined the resistance, offering food, medicine, and intelligence. The humans were no longer merely defending. They were striking back, turning the tide of war in ways that the Empire could not anticipate. Valix felt a strange mixture of pride and guilt. He had served the Empire for centuries, fought alongside its greatest generals, and believed in its invincibility. Now he realized that the Empire's greatest flaw was not in its technology or strategy. It was in underestimating humanity. In the days that followed, humans executed more daring operations. They destroyed supply lines, disabled communication networks, and liberated towns with minimal losses. Each success demoralized the Empire's troops. Entire battalions began to retreat, confused and fearful of the unpredictable human resistance. Valix could no longer ignore the truth. He had seen their courage, their intelligence, their determination. These humans, fragile and small, had accomplished what countless alien species had failed to do. They had resisted the might of the Galactic Empire, and in doing so, they had proven something greater than power itself. He whispered to himself, his voice heavy with awe and sorrow, "I have fought for centuries, and I have never seen anything like this. They do not just survive, they conquer hearts, they inspire, they endure. Humanity is something else." That night, as he watched the stars twinkle above Earth, Valix made a choice. He could no longer serve an empire that refused to see the truth. If humans could achieve this with minimal resources, imagine what they could do with guidance. From someone who knew the Empire's secrets. The first victory had changed everything. It was no longer a question of if humanity could fight. It was a question of how far they could go. And Valix knew deep in his heart that the next step would determine the fate of the galaxy. For the first time in centuries, he felt hope, not for himself, but for the humans. They were no longer underdogs. They were a storm rising, unstoppable, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The night sky above Earth was calm, but Commander Valix could feel the tension in every corner of the planet. From orbit, he watched human cities flicker with the lights of movement, soldiers patrolling, engineers repairing defenses, civilians assisting in any way they could. The humans had survived bombardments, ambushes, and mechanized attacks, yet they continued to rise. Valix's heart ached with admiration and a deep gnawing guilt. He had served the Galactic Empire for centuries, fought for their glory, and witnessed its pride. But now he could see the truth clearly. The Empire's arrogance had blinded them to something extraordinary. Humanity was not just resilient, they were unstoppable in spirit. Every strike, every resistance, every sacrifice they made proved that no amount of technology could break them. Valix made his decision quietly. He would no longer be a servant of a dying empire. He would join the humans not as a conqueror, but as an ally. He would offer them what he knew, the Empire's strategies, weaknesses, and the secrets of their war machines. If humanity could endure this long with minimal resources, imagine what they could do with guidance from someone who had fought in their ranks for centuries. Reaching the surface was risky. Valix piloted his ship under the cover of darkness, weaving through orbital patrols, avoiding scanners. He landed in a deserted industrial zone, shadows stretching across broken walls and scorched streets. Humans emerged cautiously, weapons ready, but they quickly recognized the alien who approached, not with hostility, but with reverence and hope in his eyes. "I am Valix," he said, voice low and steady. "I was part of the Empire. I've fought against you and I have seen your strength. I am here to help. If you let me, I will guide you, share everything I know, and fight alongside you." A human commander, weary but sharp-eyed, stepped forward. "Why should we trust you?" she asked, her hand resting on her rifle. "You fought for those who tried to destroy us." Valix lowered his head. "Because I was blind. I believed the Empire was invincible. I did not understand what I saw on Earth until I watched you fight. I have never seen courage like yours. You inspire even me. I want to make amends. I want to fight for something real, something worth protecting." There was a pause. Then slowly she nodded. "Then you will prove yourself." Valix spent the following days in the humans' command centers sharing his knowledge. He taught them the Empire's tactics, revealed secret weak points in warships, and helped plan strategies that would maximize the humans' strengths. He did not speak with pride, only with purpose, driven by the realization that these humans could change the galaxy forever. Together, they prepared for a major strike, a coordinated attack against the Empire's orbital fleet. Humans had already proven their brilliance in guerrilla tactics, but with Valix's insight they could aim higher. Plans were drawn on rough maps, drones scanned enemy positions, and small squads trained relentlessly. Valix watched as young soldiers, some no older than his grandchildren, absorbed his instructions and executed maneuvers with perfect precision. During quiet moments, Valix walked among the humans. He saw their determination, their humor, their care for one another even in war. It struck him again how unlike any other species they were. They did not fight for greed, conquest, or glory. They fought because it was right, because they loved their home, and because they would not allow anyone to break their world. For the first time in centuries, Valix felt a sense of belonging. He had been part of the Empire's machine for so long that he had forgotten what it was like to fight for something meaningful. Now he was not a commander of fleets or an enforcer of an empire. He was a soldier among humans, inspired by their courage and driven by their vision. The night before the attack, Valix stood on a hill overlooking a city preparing for battle. Fires glowed in the distance, yet the humans moved with calm determination. He whispered to himself, "This is not just a fight. This is the future. They will rise, and the galaxy will remember them." The dawn of the next day would mark the beginning of humanity's greatest strike yet. And Valix knew deep in his heart that he would not only fight beside them, but he would witness a legend in the making, a species that could defy the galaxy and claim its destiny through courage, will, and unity. The sky above Earth blazed with fire. Warships clashed in orbit, laser beams cutting through the darkness. Explosions shook cities and forests alike, sending plumes of smoke into the atmosphere. Yet amidst the chaos, humanity stood unbroken, relentless, and determined. Commander Valix watched from the bridge of a human command ship, his heart pounding. He had never seen a species fight with such courage, such unity, such unstoppable will. The Empire had thrown everything they had at Earth: battalions of elite soldiers, mechanized war machines, psychic assassins, and orbital bombardments meant to annihilate entire cities. Yet humans had adapted. They struck with precision, ambushed with ingenuity, and fought with a ferocity no one had expected. Small squads dismantled massive squads of enemy soldiers. Civilians helped repair defenses, deliver supplies, and relay intelligence. Every human was part of the fight, every life a weapon against despair. Valix felt awe and sorrow in equal measure. The empire he had served for centuries, the empire that had once seemed invincible, was crumbling not because of weapons or numbers, but because it had underestimated the spirit of a small, determined species. Humanity's strength was not just physical. It was emotional, moral, and unyielding. A squadron of human fighters approached the largest orbital flagship of the Empire. Felix had studied it meticulously for days, knowing its weak points. With careful coordination, the humans infiltrated the ship's defenses. Explosions rocked its hull as charges destroyed key systems. The Empire's soldiers panicked, trying to regroup, but it was too late. Humanity had seized the advantage. On the ground, humans rallied, turning the battle into a tidal wave of resistance. Entire cities that had been reduced to rubble became fortresses. Soldiers moved through alleys, forests, and ruins with unmatched coordination, striking where the enemy least expected. Felix watched a group of teenagers disable an entire convoy of war machines using clever traps and timing. He could not suppress a smile. There was genius in their courage. By the end of the day, the Empire's forces had been shattered. Their fleets floated lifelessly in orbit, their armies scattered or captured. The Galactic Empire, once feared across countless systems, had been humbled by humans. And Felix knew the truth in his bones. This was not luck. This was courage, heart, and unbreakable will. He stepped onto Earth, walking among the soldiers he now fought beside. The air was thick with smoke and the scent of burning metal, but the humans moved with purpose, helping each other, rebuilding, fighting until the last enemy had fallen. They were battered, tired, and wounded, but their eyes burned with triumph. A young human soldier approached him, her uniform torn, her face streaked with soot. "We fought because we had to," she said quietly. "But we fought also because we believed in each other, in our home, and in something bigger than ourselves." Felix nodded, emotion catching in his throat. "You have shown me something I never thought possible. You are more than fighters. You are a force of nature. The galaxy will remember you." He looked around at the soldiers, the civilians, the children carrying supplies, and the people repairing defenses. Humanity had survived, and in doing so, had reshaped the galaxy's destiny. They had proven that no matter how small, how underestimated, a species with courage, heart, and unity could overcome any force, no matter how mighty. As the sun rose over the scorched landscapes, Felix raised his head toward the stars. He felt hope, pride, and awe swell within him. Humanity had not only defended their planet, they had conquered the impossible. They had taken the first step toward a legend that would echo across the galaxy for generations. For the first time in his long life, Felix felt a sense of peace. He had fought for centuries for an empire that valued power over truth, only to see that truth emerge in the heart of humanity. And he knew without doubt that this was only the beginning. Humanity had risen. Humanity had triumphed, and the galaxy would never forget the day Earth's soldiers, ordinary yet extraordinary, stood together and showed that no force, no empire, and no weapon could break the spirit of a determined people. Felix smiled as he joined them, side by side in a victory that was not only physical but spiritual, a triumph of courage, unity, and heart that would define the stars forever.